It would have to be the entire state of Colorado who absolutely hates you. And it was around 11 o'clock. Well, actually, it was right after I was done shooting this video that I do weekly lives at 12 p.m. Every Monday. And I was talking about smoke in Fort Collins because there was some smoke that was haziness from California and Montana and Canada fires that was making its way into Fort Collins. And I got a text from a buddy saying, "Hey, do you see the smoke in Fort Collins?" And I said, "No." And there was a fire that started, I believe it started right around like 10:30 in the morning and in Larimer County, Alexander Fire. And it just fell off. And fortunately, we only lost about 10,000 acres, 20 some odd houses, 50 some odd total structures. But those are people's lives that have been absolutely turned upside down. It was a very scary 7 to 10 days. And some of these investigative works into fires, especially like the 2000, I believe it was 2013 and 2020, like there was 4 or 5 of the largest fires in Colorado during those years. And I think 2 or 3 of them are still under investigation. One was like man-made, 1 or 2 was man-made, and 1 or 2 was like lightning caused by lightning. And it was just this last week that they came out with that they have already arrested a man under suspicion of arson who once worked for the Sylvandale Guest Ranch. And then before the fire even started, they was impersonating police officers and rangers, and then was going behind kind of the boundary lines that the police officers were putting when the fire and evacuations were happening. And it just is wild to think that, unfortunately now there are 20 plus families who have lost their houses. Fortunately, in this fire specifically, nobody lost their lives, but that's not to say that their lives are not turned upside down. So again, we're going to do a fundraiser here probably in the next month or two before the year end, similar to what we did a couple of years back when we had our editor who's based in Ukraine, obviously going through and still going through the Ukraine-Russia war. And we had a huge raise. We were able to raise, I think, close to $7,000 or $8,000 for them, which is life-changing. And we're going to try to do something similar here for something surrounding and associated with that. So if you're watching this, or if you're watching this on rerun, definitely, comment below or reach out to me and let me know maybe of a family that's in need or a cause that would be worth getting behind and throwing some dollars behind. So, and then we will be giving money, obviously, as Sukup Real Estate, our company annuals give. That's what that will be this year. But if you have anything particular that you'd like to go there, because I just devastating to see that this was arson, somebody acting in bad faith, and evil intentions for sure. So, but this is Fort Collins, live in Fort Collins, and there was plenty of other things that were happening this last week, and I'm going to just start with the CSU football game. So, I've grown up in Fort Collins my entire life. Been a CSU Ram fan my entire life. Now I've gotten some shit because we have a Living in Fort Collins Facebook group, which if you wanted to get a little bit more information, potentially more connected, we're building. It's a building group still, just between 100, 200 members. So just very small. But regardless, I put a comment on there that, over the last couple of years, Dion has really just, from my perspective, excited the Colorado football fan base. And I'm not even a huge football player. I played football, 1 or 2 seasons in my life, soccer player, and focus on basketball and track and field. But I've always enjoyed watching it and cheering for it. And I've had a lot of friends play in high school and college. So it's always been something that's been important to me. And I've gone to, Hugh Stadium growing up, and now Canvas Stadium. And anyways, it was an amazing atmosphere in Fort Collins. It was just, 40,000 people at Canvas Stadium. The stadium was packed, all the excitement. Now, the football wasn't that great. The football wasn't amazing. Travis Hunter is an absolute special talent. That is for sure. Excited to watch his career move forward from here. But CSU is a little sad, but we were fortunate enough because of my wife to be in the AD's box. And I'm not a huge fanboy by any means for anything. I think I would love to meet Michael Jordan. I would have loved to have met Michael Jackson. And I think Tiger Woods. I think those three athletes would be ones that I would be like, holy cow. I've, been in, met lots of different people through the Olympics and athletes that are, professional, and just never been starstruck. But I would say I was kind of fanboying this last weekend. It was in the box, there was Michael Gallup, Rashad Higgins, David Anderson, Joel Dreesen, Bradley Van Pelt, Dexter Wynn. There was just some OGs of the CSU teams of past that were just kind of cool to see all in one. They're very successful, very nice, humble people, just looking to cheer on some CSU Rams that didn't necessarily have the best game. But that was awesome. First time in Fort Collins since 1996. From what I've seen, everyone was safe. Now, and Terrell Davis was there. There was a ton of people there. Now, there's some rumors, and I need help answering these. So if you're watching this and you were at the game, could anyone verify or, decline that this is truth? There was Kevin Costner, The Rock, John Elway. John Elway makes sense. He's down in Denver. Terrell Davis was there. But Kevin Costner and The Rock were both there. So I would like to know, did anybody see those individuals in Fort Collins, maybe on their Instagram, if they're on TikTok or whatever? But that was kind of cool. Just a very sweet atmosphere. And I think Fort Collins handled it really, really well. I mean, you couldn't tell there was a football game going on the south side of town. But and even as you got closer, the traffic wasn't bad. Canvas Stadium, I think, is an absolute huge success story. Now, if we could just put a football team on the field to support how much money was spent on that stadium. But I think overall that stadium is a huge success, and traffic's great. All righty, jumping in. We are moving into a land use code phase number 2. That's kind of the commercial aspect of it. So mixed use retail, how things. So I think it's very important also for housing density. And as you remember, or maybe remember, the reason why this live feed started was because of just lack of information. So let's see here. Here are some specific times and dates of locations to get additional information for the Phase 2 land use code. October 4th, Poudre Valley Plaza at Horsetooth Road. October 7th, Jessup Farm, Artisan Village. October 9th, Harmony Crossing at Harmony and Timberline. October 10th, Whole Foods Market at College and Rutgers Avenues. And then October 12th, Scotch Pines and Drake Road. Scotch Pines at Drake Road and LeMay Avenue. So there is definitely some information coming out. It is not going to have probably as much of a impact directly on individuals living here in Fort Collins, but I would say density, what can be built where, what is mixed use, what are going to be the focus areas that are going to be growing and opportunities. So I would say it's important to the development of Fort Collins. And now that we are through the land use code, which I think took 3 iterations for the residential side, we are now on the commercial side. Let's see here. Fort Collins weather. Actually, this article suggested that we've had quite a few 90-degree days so far this year, 43 as of this article's time period. But we are moving. I just looked at the 10-day forecast. I see 80s, even 70s in the forecast. Yesterday was absolutely gorgeous. This is my favorite time of the year. I think fall is everyone's favorite time of the year. It's kind of the perspective. I thought it was special, unique, saying that fall was my favorite, because I would have imagined that summer was it. But fall, I think, pretty much falls in line with a lot of people's favorite times of the year. So wonderful weather, good sun, kind of a little cool, crisp in the mornings, hot during the afternoons, and then cooler in the evenings. Probably my least favorite thing, though, is I walked out to my car the other day, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning after I got done at the gym, and I'm like, dang, it is still dark out. That is my least favorite. I absolutely love it when it is getting light out at like 5:15, 5:10, and then staying light until like 8:30. So the sun is coming up and going down a little bit sooner. I didn't read too much into this, but this is definitely a bummer for Windsor. Judge places Windsor Sports Complex in receivership after the loans go unpaid. $47 million worth of loans that are unpaid at this time. And essentially, receivership has gone to a company, Cords and Company, that will take care of its day-to-day operations, its contracts that it's got in place for building, and then property management of the area as well. But a huge blow to Windsor. So if I were to be a betting person, I would guess that actually, I guess I am a betting person because I did bet on the CSU game and got my ass kicked. First time I bet in a long time. But so seeing as I am a betting person, I would bet that this Windsor Sports Complex turns out to be a shell of what it was going to be. They were suggesting that potentially 1 million people per year was going to go through these facilities. And there are still some pretty cool things about it. I mean, like the bubble there that's got indoor basketball courts and football fields. I mean, it's huge, but they don't have the stadium built yet. There's still a ton of sports fields there that have been built. But I think this dream of what it was going to be is not going to happen unless somebody who can get it for an absolute steal. McQuinney's are probably looking hard at it. Martin Lind is probably looking hard at it. And so, they're going to get a good deal because it's basically going through foreclosure, and somebody's going to go get pennies on the dollar. When if you got the financial means and ability, like they did for the Foothills Fashion Mall, they bought that thing. Alberta Development put $300 million plus into that redevelopment of the Foothills Mall, and the McQuinney's bought it for like $47 million. I mean, just talk about literal pennies on the dollar of its value, its land, its square footage. And McQuinney's are planning on putting another $300 million in it. So, I mean, that part of Midtown Fort Collins is going to be nearly $1 billion development when this thing is done. So like $750 million at least, $750 million at least. So similar things going to be happening at the Future Legends Sports Park. So hopefully a local developer would be great, but somebody comes in, takes the reins, and turns this into what it could be. But it also could very well turn into kind of just a ho-hum sports complex, which there's still a lot of sports complexes there, and not anything to kind of turn your nose up to. All right. Oh, I'm kind of excited about this because we just bought a place up in Red Feather. Dowdy Lake and West Lake are going to increase their daily rates from $9 to $10. And they typically shut off the water to those on September 30th, but they're going to be now open year round and have bathrooms open and cleaned year round. So we've been going to Dowdy Lake quite a bit. It's a super, super cool lake. If you haven't been, an hour from Fort Collins. It is non-motorized, paddleboarding, fishing. There's cool little like outcroppings of like islands within the water. It's just overall pretty cool. All right. This was a good article to see. Poudre School District outpaces state neighboring districts and state assessments. One of the big reasons why people move to Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, is the outdoor lifestyle and activities and things of that nature. But one of the big things that they want is their kids to be in the Poudre School District. So having this come out suggesting that, we are ranking quite well in regards to the, especially in comparison to the state of Colorado, was great to see. Poudre School District is the 8th largest school district in Colorado with nearly 30,000 students. Let's see here. Including among the 21 school districts in the state with 10,000 or more students, including charter schools. PSD ranked number 4 for all grades in CMAS math proficiency and number 5 in English language and proficiency. And among all 167 districts in the state reporting results, PSD was number 10 in math and number 15 in English language arts. So, and then there was the smaller districts claiming the top 4 spots in each subject area. So it's great to see this with Poudre School District continuing to rank well, especially because they have a lot of challenges and issues with, there's going to be a mill levy on this November's ballot to try to increase the mills to be able to afford the budget shortfall that they have. But I would say that, I think we're gonna try to get Ann Hutchinson onto the podcast because there's a Larimer County mill levy that they're thinking about 15 cents on every $100, so 0.15 cent tax for roads, construction, and transportation in Larimer County. And Ann Hutchinson, the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, is in support of this. And then there's this mill levy that would add $150 or so per year on a $600,000 home in property taxes. And it just feels like, these taxes aren't going to, the biggest thing that I try to think of are these taxes are not going to go away. A great example is a lot of them have sunsets, but like Fort Collins, for instance, has a couple of taxes that are up for renewal in 2025 and 26. And they generally are like, the city council is like, yeah, these are going to probably stay, like, because people love them. And maybe they fall off. Maybe I'm not old enough to know if things do fall off, but from my understanding and my perception, if a tax gets in place, it's really hard for them to then take away that funding because there's employees that have been hired because of those tax dollars, capital projects that have been taken on because of those dollars that are expected. So I think maybe what we'll have is on whether it's on the podcast, on a YouTube live, we'll go down what's on the ballot and kind of maybe not necessarily our 2 cents per se, except for a few of these things. So there's currently 2 different things that are going to be on the ballot for Fort Collins and Larimer County residents this coming November, which will be for the Poudre School District, a mill levy increase of essentially it's going to be $25 for every $100,000 of value. And so, like I said, on the example that I gave on a $600,000 house, $150, and then a 0.15 cent or 0.15 cent tax for Larimer County on roads and transportation, which the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce supports. The former Lyric building was torn down after being vacant for 7 years in Old Town, where the Lyric did sit. I'd gone there a few times to watch movies, but it was on this kind of cool corner. It's across the street from the Bohemian Foundations building, as well as the Elizabeth. And there was a comment on our YouTube channel just the other day that was talking about like, man, I went down and stayed in Old Town and at the Elizabeth and I'm sold. And it's an easy sell at that point because the Elizabeth is a world-class hotel, a smaller hotel. It's a big hotel, but it's a smaller hotel. But it just jives with downtown and Old Town Fort Collins. Pat Stryker and the Bohemian Foundation own that Lyric, that kind of pizza slice, and what they are suggesting that it's going to add to what is already another world-class music venue in the Armory, and they're going to do updates and upgrades to that. So I'm curious, what that'll look like. But between the Armory, Washington's, gosh, I got something in my nose, itchy. It's not cocaine. And the Aggie, there are some phenomenal music venues in Fort Collins in Northern Colorado. But we are going to, so there is a big, we're on this Wednesday's podcast for the Fort Collins Fellows, we had Travis Storn, the CFO of the city of Fort Collins, on and talked all things budget. And last Tuesday was the first work session for the 2025-2026 budget. We go in an every 2-year cycle for the city of Fort Collins. It's roughly a $900 million budget, but when you take out kind of like paybacks and different things, it's roughly a $650 to $700 million budget. But still, nearly $1 billion budget for the city of Fort Collins, which is essentially a business. 2,400 employees for the city of Fort Collins staff. And I'm going to jump in and I'm going to show you guys the PowerPoint for it because I think that would be really good for you guys to see. Okay. Present, share screen. All right. So, for September 10th, we have the first work session, budget public hearing. So if you want to have your voice heard about things that are above the line that's going to get funded and below the line that's not going to get funded, because there's essentially City of Fort Collins has they can't take on debt. So it has to be a balanced budget. So there are programs that might not get funding that people would love to see funded, or projects that are getting funded that maybe other projects would be better served. So if you would want, tomorrow evening, there is going to be the city council meeting, and have your voice heard. You can listen to what's going on with the budget and have your voice heard. September 24th is another work session. So there's kind of 7 core criteria: economic, environmental, health, neighborhood and community vitality, safe community, culture and recreation, transportation, mobility, and high performing government. And the work sessions are really kind of revolving around those. And we'll kind of dive into a little bit about what they talked about on the work session. Another public hearing, general discussion. So they're going to kind of finalize what that budget is based off of the 2 work sessions and the 2 public hearings. And they'll come back with a kind of a final proposed budget. City of Fort Collins has a wonderful website that you can go on there. The budget itself is about 500 pages, but there are bite-sized pieces that you can take in. So again, we're right here, council discussion, and then by the end of November, finalized budget by the end of November. I think November 19th is the budget needs to be finished finalized by the end of November per our charter. I thought that there's a couple things I want to point out here. We're getting to be a more normalized growth, 3 to 4% annual growth. So our GDP, essentially, our gross domestic product, is essentially the sales tax for the city of Fort Collins, use tax, relatively flat on that. But the property tax, this is suggesting property values. This is what the city of Fort Collins is suggesting they're going to expect as far as property value increases over the next couple of years. Essentially, I think I'm taking a step out there, but because we got rid of the Gallagher Amendment, which that was 4, 5, 6 years ago, whatever that was, which adjusted residential property tax valuations to commercial valuations because of the Gallagher Amendment. Without that anymore, property taxes will now increase in line with the property valuations. Now, the state of Colorado, Larimer County, there are now larger, top of the line reductions. I can't think of the name of it right now, and a reduced assessment rate. So there could be some more playing with numbers to help offload the burden of property taxes. But property valuations, they're expecting them to be relatively flat over the next couple of years. 2025, a 1% increase, and 2026, a 2% increase. So that's interesting to see the city of Fort Collins' perspective on property valuations. Okay, let's see here. Again, so $670 million. So I think this is the actual $650 million. So this is the actual dollars, and we'll talk about how where money kind of comes all in, but then kind of gets taken out because of the way that the money comes in. I thought this was really important to understand. Our utility rate increases. We are expecting larger utility rate increases because our Platte River Power Authority will be building Rawhide 2, I think is what it's called. and natural gas combustion for our electricity that can kind of convert to hydro in different ways. But then they're going to take offline one of our coal plants. So there are large capital expenditures taking place, which is what the reason is for these large utility expenses, as well as Halligan being built out. So we have a lot of financial needs, which are really kind of subsidized or paid for by utility rates. It was interesting. There was, like for water example, 100%, let's say, 95% of our budget for water, and that comes with like operational management, build out, assets, all that kind of stuff, comes from the utility rates. Only 5% come from the developer impact fees. So when we need to build something or operate or make changes or anything along those lines, the way that we are levered to pull is the utility rates. Now, that's all, kind of not fun to hear, but that being said, comparatively to other communities, we still come in as one of the more affordable utility, average monthly utility bill, especially if you put in there connections internet. Our internet's top notch and very affordable. But once we see those rate increases, we'll increase a little bit, but still be very much on the lower end as far as our utility rates go. This is some of the cost assumptions for the budget: salary, medical, dental, personnel costs. Here are some of the things to take into consideration. We just had come into play the 2050 tax. So that is the Parks, Rec, Culture, Climate and Transportation, a half-cent sales tax that basically 25% of that's going to go to Parks and Recreation, 12.5 cents is going to go to climate, 12.5 cents is going to go to transportation. ARPA funding is ending, where we were a lot of subsidization with eviction. I mean, so many different projects were subsidized by the American for Recovery's something Act. Prosperity Act? I don't know. Help me out. But the American Recovery Relief Fund, ARPA, those dollars are coming to an end. And let's see here. The biggest thing that when I talked with Travis was like they want to maintain excellent service throughout the city, and they believe that they're doing that. And so that's definitely a big deal. Council has 11 priorities that they are trying to fit these budget dollars within: 15-minute communities, Vision Zero, having fun in government, which is a priority, which is interesting. But anyways, let's see here. Invest in existing city talents to be competitive employer and maintain exceptional service. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that not too long ago on one of our videos. It's imperative that City of Fort Collins, one, pays well, because overall Fort Collins incomes aren't meeting the level that they need to for the cost of housing. And so one of the biggest challenges and needs for Fort Collins is high paying jobs, and to keep the talent that's currently here and maybe recruit the talent that's graduating from the wonderful institution that is Colorado State University. Let's see your public engagement. Again, you have tons of opportunities. Get involved, have your voice heard if that is important to you. There are items that are going to get cut. There are items above the line and below the line. Public hearings at City Council, September 17th and October 1st. Here is what I was talking about. Our $830 million budget, that's really $625 because there are some items that get taken out that's just kind of double counted. Internal service funds transfer to other funds. So, $160 million just gets double counted, as well as other things. So that's why our true budget, $625, $693, and $656. Okay. That's really the main things that I wanted to show you guys. They talked about plenty of different focuses within those 4 items, but we will continue to go down on that. It is a beast of a budget packet. American Rescue Plan Act. Thank you, Drone Pros. So yes, those dollars are going away. They're going to go to more of a normalized growth. One of the big things that this council members were talking about that funding needs to go to is evictions, homeless, affordable housing. That there's just only so many dollars to go so many places. And, but those were some items that weren't going to get cut, but really wanted to get funded. So they have good resources on their website that can kind of break it down a little bit more manageable than a 500-page document that they also have. And if that's important to you. All right, jumping into some things that you can do this coming weekend. The Fall Equinox Half Marathon, $99, September 22nd. Oktoberfest, October 22nd. So you could go run your half marathon or 5-mile run and then go to Oktoberfest at Horse and Dragon from 7:30 to 10 p.m. That's really it. My son's 5th birthday. Super stoked about that. Playing some poker this weekend. Other than that's kind of what I've got going on. And otherwise just really enjoying the fall weather. That is the end of our show today. Appreciate you guys watching every week. We got a fun video coming out tomorrow. We are going to be, what's it called? We respond to crazy, now they're not crazy, they're just individuals, reviews of Fort Collins. And I did it real time. So literally right when I read the first time that I read the review of Fort Collins was how I responded to it. And at the end of it, I was like, there's some things that I think maybe I stumbled on a little bit and didn't talk as well as I could have, but we took it. And it was my first time reading the responses, first time responding to them. And that comes out tomorrow. So enjoy that video. But as much as these are live on a weekly basis, but I have kind of a stock script to go by of, things that we did, city council review, things to do. And we don't really talk about developments under review anymore. So really those 3 things are our main focus each week. This was specific around responses in Fort Collins. So enjoy that video. Definitely have a watch, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.